everyone, and welcome to Presently Aqui with Claudia. I am Claudia, your host. And Presently Aqui is a community of healers that come together and share their remarkable stories of self discovery and self healing. And as you already know, I have another phenomenal guest today, which we clicked immediately, and I cannot wait to introduce you to all of you, to her, because you're gonna fall in love. So today I have Latrice Levitt, and she is the one and only Nurse Blue and America's nurse and wellness coach, and the CEO of Blue Light Coaching and Consulting. Nurse Blue specializes in soul health, which is the art and science of wholeness. Nurse Blue has a bachelor's degree of science degree in nursing from Hampton University and has earned 6 highly specialized coaching certifications, 20-year plus of research, training, and development in soul health. Soul health is the study of wholeness, which is a principle of health and wellness, and she helps her clients reverse chronic diseases that originate from an imbalanced lifestyle by increasing the vibrational frequency of the soul. Welcome, Goddess.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Claudia, and hello to everyone who I'm going to connect with through this beautiful conversation.
Yes. Oh my God, so exciting. So, for the new listeners, this may be new for you, but for the old listeners, I'm trying something new with all of my conversations, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths together before we start this beautiful conversation. All right,
Yes.
so we're going to inhale, and you can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open, whatever you feel comfortable, sitting, laying down, just you're not driving. That's it. And so we're going to take a deep breath together and just be present where we are now with everything. Everything. Just inhale, release, and let it go. The second inhale, just pay attention to where your mind is and let that go. Your second breath, inhale and see where your body's at. And just let it go and be here now with Latrice and I in this beautiful conversation. Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Um, yeah, I know I kind of jumbled my words in the beginning, and I noticed that I do that every time because I'm so excited. And so that's why I initiated the 3 deep breaths so we can now have a flow.
Thank you for that. That felt so delicious inside.
Good, awesome, right? Because it does reshift everything. Like you had your day, I had my day, the listeners had their
Yes,
day, and let's just be here with this conversation that we're gonna have. So
that's
I'm so
right.
excited, so excited to get into this. So thank you again for. I know I'm gonna thank you a million times because that's the space I live in, but I do appreciate you taking the time today to share your journey with us. So with that said, Latrice Goddess, what were some challenges that you face on your path to self discovery? And this could be anywhere in your life, nothing specific, whatever may show up for you.
Thank you so much, Claudia. That's such a brilliant question because when I look back on my life, the things that I would refer to as challenges have been the best gifts to prepare me on my path. But my challenges on my early on in my journey clearly was self worth problems. On the outside, I grew up in a structurally the structure of our family on the outside looked stable. It looked like everything was, a beautiful picture. But inside the walls of the house, like many people, I struggled with emotional abandonment. So while, we had the bills were paid and I went to I had a private education. I grew up in a privileged background. I needed a lot more I love yous and it's going to be okay that were available to me. I also struggled with sibling bullying. And I know that, just throughout my life, I know a lot of people who have encountered bullying situations. And in my case, unfortunately, it happened over and over and over again because it happened in the household and then it happened in my family's business and then it happened in school. And because I, kind of developed that energy because it was never processed, it was never dealt with. The other piece of that is that I didn't feel protected by
Mm-hmm.
people who, you know,
Right.
ordinarily, excuse the background, not quite sure.
No, that's me. I'm
That's
in
it.
the big city. That's me.
I
It's
didn't know if it
always
was
me.
mine or yours. Um, and I felt like I grew up also in Chicago. Like now I live in Orlando, Florida, which is the home for my soul, but I'm originally from Chicago. And sometimes growing up in urban environments, you encounter a lot of resistance. A lot of resistance that just comes with growing up in a city that, the projections may be ones that, you don't feel safe in certain areas, or you're hearing a siren in the background, or
Right.
and being blessed with this beautiful melanated skin has also come with its points of resistance,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to learn how to navigate that along with narcissistic abuse,
Yes.
which is a huge thing,
Mm-hmm.
that was a part of me repairing parts of myself in order to help others. That was huge in my life. So the journey has been one of truly embracing the bitter with the sweet so we can create lemonade with this life, right?
Right, right, right.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I love the wording of what you said about the restrictions that come with the gift, right, of being melanated. It's just in general, the gifts that come with the gift. That gift can
Yes.
be anything, right?
Yes.
And in a world where people with gifts are not embraced, right, because there is so much ignorance around gifts, however magical they may be.
Yes.
So it's just, I love the points of resistance, right? That was beautiful. I love the way you described that. And a lot of these aspects of your struggle and your challenges that you faced, um, that takes time still. And with the conversation I had with you the first time, you're such a bright light, and for me, I can sense all of the strength of what you just shared behind that light.
Thank you.
It's remarkable, because that isn't easy, and that's why we have these conversations, right? So we
Oh,
can share with
Claudia.
other people that are in that space, right?
Absolutely, and I think that that's one of the gifts that come with the journey is that the more you shed, the brighter your light becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing I am proud of is that I have learned how to process over 40 plus years of soul toxins. And that's the residue that just kind of comes with unprocessed pain, you know?
Right.
And so when you acknowledge that you see my light, then I'm like, yes, that was what all of those tears were about. Yes, that was what that pain was about. That's why I had to jump over those hurdles or whatever it was, is because I
Right.
had to learn how to illuminate, and that's what we're here for. I
That
think one
is
of the biggest mistakes that humanity has taught itself, or we have taught each other, I should say, is that we are not spiritual beings, is that
mm-hmm.
that we are limited,
Right.
because much of the reasons why things are as difficult as they are in the world right now is because we're working from misinformation, we're
Mm-hmm.
working from expired information, we're working from spells, if you will, in terms of what has been spoken into the atmosphere and people have
Yes.
believed. And all of us have gifts, but you have people thinking, well, they have more than me, without realizing,
Mm-hmm.
without really knowing how to tap in to find out really what you have. And much of what life has become for us, Claudia, is coming up from a coming out of the dirt, coming from up, kind of like
Right.
we're excavating our hearts and our souls,
Yeah.
pulling back the layers, pulling back the lies, trying to figure out what's real and what's not, so that we can get to the point where we can shine. And I think that's really
Absolutely.
what this whole thing called life is, finding out how wonderful you are under all of this stuff.
Right, right. And even how you mentioned in the beginning how you're wearing a mask, because everyone's wearing this mask, right?
Yeah,
Because we've been conditioned to think that your best self is not accepted.
right.
Your true self is not accepted. And that's inverted. That's incredibly just not okay.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
like, even how you're saying bullying, even in bullying in school, right? Kids, they're not tall enough, they're not strong enough, or they're not rich enough, or they're not something enough.
Yes, judgment is our biggest. I think it's one of the biggest problems with our psychology is that I would say judgment is the biggest weapon of mass destruction for humanity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if we judge with appreciation as opposed with criticism, we could change this thing around in a day. Like, I mean, if you think about this, one of the, and I started to examine, like, what times of the year do you kind of feel, like, you kind of feel an elevation and vibration certain times of the year? Well, typically it's around a holiday, right? So, one
Yeah.
of the biggest holidays where you kind of feel that the trajectory of energy amongst humanity shifts upward. Let's just say Christmas, right? Christmas, you can kind
Mm-hmm.
of feel the spirit of it in the air.
Right.
Why? Because we're all appreciating.
Right.
And even those
Right.
who may not believe in Christmas can still benefit from the energy that we're all giving gifts. We're all coming together as family. We're all appreciating. Well, what if we just had an appreciation holiday?
Right. How remarkable that day would be.
Come on. It doesn't have to be tied around
Yes.
a religion. It doesn't have to be tied
Right.
around anything that's going to divide us. Like, everybody wake up today and let's just say every Monday is Appreciation Monday. And let's just test out how much we
Seriously.
improve. Really?
Right. Because it's a collective energy rising together, like in the holidays.
Yes.
Because December is not only a Catholic Christian, but it's always the Jewish holiday, and then there's Kwanzaa. There's just so
Yes.
many packed in one, plus the New Year. So the energies are so high in this
Yes.
gratitude space that I'm glad you brought that up because so everyone can understand. Everyone knows what that energy is about. Everybody's felt it, been there. Even if you're not celebrating, like you said, you can still feel this light, happy, giving
Yes.
energy. And if you had
Yes.
that at least once, someone,
Come on.
yes, come on,
I'm telling you, we
seriously,
would heal diseases, really. I mean,
yes,
people don't understand that because we are spiritual beings and, our life, we function on frequency.
yeah,
If we just learn how to master elevating the frequency naturally with small things, it doesn't have to be as hard as we think it is, guys.
right,
It
yeah,
really
it's
doesn't,
not. It
you
doesn't.
know?
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important because again, that limitation, that's the knowledge, right? That we are limited and we're human and we need to have a boss and we need to have people above us. Even the God is above us. Everything's above us, and it's just like we
Yes.
are everything,
Yes.
nothing at the same time. We are everything,
That's
and
it.
so having that space, that safe space for people to start having that awareness of that you are much more than you were told is a big deal. And also to prep the mind to have the acceptance to not only believe what you're told, but to go practice and see what gifts you find, see what magic lies within you. It's not about my guests and I want to put this in your head to believe a different narrative. It's not about that. It's about for you to be curious and really dive into what we're saying. Test it out. That's what it's about. If we were not allowed to question what we're saying, then we're like everyone else.
That's right. That's right. And I think that what I have come to understand is that once I realized that the majority of the thoughts that I had built my life around were not my own.
Oof, that's big.
But everything that was happening to my life at one time was like reactions to somebody else.
Right.
I had to get to a point, Claudia, it got to a point where it hurt so bad. Then I had to start asking what's going on here. And the minute you start asking questions, really, when it gets to a point where you're saying enough is enough, I want the answers. Okay.
Yeah.
That's when you start moving along this path of when the answers start coming back to you, you have to start accepting them with appreciation, but you also gonna have to be bold enough to do something with that information.
Yeah.
Because that's where
Absolutely.
the real transformation begins to take place.
Yes. Right.
You
Right.
know?
Absolutely. And then,
It, mhm.
yeah. No, and also that is the purpose of this community, is for the listener to know that they're not alone, and there are people out there that can help guide you into yourself,
Oh, yes.
right? To have this understanding. And that's why we have these conversations, so that way, as you and I think we touched on this on our previous conversation, where everyone's coming into their own awareness, right? And they're gonna start looking for, like, oh, where do I go? Where do and the purpose, not only to highlight you and every guest I've had, it's so that way also, again, back to curiosity and questioning, question these people. Are they for me? Do they resonate with me? Are they in alignment for me? Don't
Yes.
just take my word because they're my guest. I don't want you to, again, to start putting anything above you. You are your barometer, your measure. You know better than I on figuring out who is the healer that can assist you on your path.
That's right. That's right. And there's many healers that
Yes.
oftentimes come into your path of awakening. I remember my first life coach. I was 25 years old and I had run away from dealing with myself because traditionally in the African American community, which obviously I'm a part of, mental health has not always been embraced. And I didn't know if what I needed at the time when I was going through something was a therapist, was a psychologist, was a coach, or any of that. And I was
Right.
too afraid or had too much pride. Let's just say that I had too much pride to say that I knew I needed help, but I had too much pride to go to someone, right? And so a number of circumstances happened where I kept running into this one woman where it felt like, okay, source was like, okay, that's who you need to work with, right? And once I started, she began to help me turn on the lights inside. Because when you, in my case, growing up, as I mentioned before, I mean, I suffered from emotional abandonment, which means we didn't deal with our emotions, and
Right.
then not only that, those who I felt like I could trust with what I was going through, they didn't know how to help me. So maybe the advice was, "Oh, you'll be fine. Oh, you'll get over it. Oh, don't worry
Right.
about it." Or whatever it was never an invitation to let's just go deal with this. It was always stuff it, avoid it, run away from it. And you can only run away with that so long, Claudia, before you start developing habits. That's how habits began to take that. You know,
Yes.
being a medical professional, what people don't realize is that the reason why I focus on soul health, because that's really where the solution is.
That is,
The,
yes.
the solution is always around how you think and how you feel about a matter. That's all healing is, an elevated thought, an elevated emotion, right? And I'm not talking about an elevated emotion where you're angry and you ready to and you're ready to go and do something about your anger.
Right.
No. What I mean is it starts with finding balance and then working your way up so you can attract a um, higher level thoughts about how to
Mm-hmm.
solve the issues,
Mm-hmm.
some ideas that can bring harmony,
Yes.
and and all of that is truly learning how to master your emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
But when you have
Absolutely.
not been taught that your emotions matter, how do you do that?
Especially as a man. Imagine.
Yes,
Especially.
absolutely.
Holy cow.
Abs-
Who's suffering most in mental health right now? All of
yes,
our men.
that's right,
Not
right.
dealing with their emotions.
That's right. And we're at a time now that as the universe, as our planet is shifting energy, we are all being asked to move into the higher versions of ourselves. And we need new technology. We have to upgrade our wellness strategy right
Yes.
now. And really,
Absolutely.
and that means finding your superpowers.
Yes, yes, upgrading all of it because you can't go in with the same mentality of the trauma. It has to be elevated, it has to be changed, it
Yes.
has to be discovered. You have to figure out, I can't solve my abandonment issue with my abandonment mind. That's not going
Right.
to happen. That's not going to happen. I
No.
have the same, emotional abandonment, same. So I understand. And you have to start with that curiosity, start questioning, right? You were just getting like, why is this happening? Why am I so this? Why am I so that? Why? And usually, I think there's a saying where it says that you start to heal yourself when you're sick of your own shit. When you're
Yes, when
sick
it
of your
hurts
own
too
shit.
bad. That yes. That's right. That's
And it's
right.
true. There comes that point. You reach the ceiling. Like, I can't do, and I'm so angry at myself. Oh, it's me that I'm angry at. Because, again, having the emotional intelligence means that you know what each emotion stems from, what they mean, and what they're teaching you. Especially anger. When people say, I'm angry, no, you're feeling anger. And the anger is you. I'm not. I only, they say, if you upset me, I allowed you to upset me.
That's right.
So really, I'm angry at myself for
That's
allowing
right.
you to upset me. But that's emotional intelligence, and that's how you start to understand yourself better and the triggers when you know someone may be trying to upset you and you don't engage and you don't interact. So then you hold your power, and that way you can't say, that person made me upset. I understood. You have more compassion because you're giving yourself that space
That's right.
to understand where you're coming from. So that's the elevated community space where, and you brought up when when you're 25 and you met your life coach. That was going to be my next question. What was your pivotal point, right? Where you came into becoming the nurse blue, right? What
Yes.
was that? Like, how you reached that now when that space elevated for you?
Yes. Well, I did what everyone told me to do, Claudia. I went off to college. I got my education, got my job. I was working for my family. I bought a home, had a great car, great career, money in the bank, was miserable. I could not figure out how at age 25 I had everything I was supposed to have, and yet I was so unfulfilled, and that emotional abandonment was like a gaping hole that I didn't have. I didn't know how to patch it up, right? And so I reached this point where I kept running into this one person who specialized in this area, and I was courageous enough to go and turn on the lights. Well, needless to say, shortly thereafter I had met someone who we knew instantly it was a divine connection that was going to lead to marriage, right? And the way things came about, Lord knows, I mean, guys, I'm telling you, the book is going to be incredible when I release it. But the way things had come about, it was a door opening it was opening up for me to become who I am today as Nurse Blue. It was masked in a marriage, of course. And the last thing my life coach told me to do prior to going off to get married, she said, he's your teacher. get prepared for your lesson. So from there, I knew I was on assignment somehow, some way. It had not been clear along, outside of the fact that I had grown up in a family business. I was in radio. I was always around communications. That was when I was like, okay, this is a different journey I'm about to move off. I'm about to go into, and I'm here for it. And it was a ride of my life, honey. It was a ride for my life, but I was here for it because I knew that this right here, this path is where I needed to cross to go where that I needed to go down to go wherever else I was going. And so what I always tell people is this: when you decide to fully surrender to this awakening process, oh, get ready for the roller coaster. But you can't become the best version of yourself by any other process. Because that's what it is. It's soul health. It is really returning your soul back to its highest level of vibration, Claudia. I mean, we came here as spiritual beings at an 852 hertz frequency. That's unconditional love. And depending on what environment, what family, what ethnic group, what religion, whatever you have been tied to, all of that has been like programmed into you, kind of like how we do these cell phones here, right? We programmed, we were the original technology, right? And so
Yes,
now,
yes.
so for the first time, I think in civilization, we have the opportunity to awaken, to become our real selves and truly decide, is this a program that is working for me or not? And you can decide to disrupt it and become the best version of yourself.
Yeah. How did that show up for you as you were going through? And now that they turn on the lights, how did that started to show up for you?
Oh, honey. Well, it showed up in a lot of different ways. First of all, relationships, everything around me changed. The environment changed. I had moved to a new environment. My friendships had shifted immediately. And it was a process of breaking the ego, which was a messy process. Because what I had to do is when you're going through transformation typically takes place in an isolated kind of environment,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, in many ways, I felt vulnerable. And then I had to deal with all of my fears. I had to decide day after day that I wanted to do this not just for me, but to break generational curses.
Yes.
And how it showed up for me now, I am totally responsible for the life that I live. How it shows up for me now, I wake up every day with the intention to share this bright light with the world. How it shows up for me now, I have so much gratitude, joy, and appreciation, and more love than I ever believed I could have. I have the
Mm-hmm.
freedom that comes with releasing toxic fumes that were inside of me.
Right. Yeah.
I can connect with people from all over the world. I no longer allow the programs of the world to separate me from the love of people.
Right.
So, how it has showed up, I am truly highly motivated on a daily basis to become the best version of myself. And when I don't show up in that way because I'm still growing, I don't condemn myself as long as I
Right.
did. I don't, I limit my, I worked my hardest to elevate and maintain that elevation, and I deal very quickly with those lower frequencies because that's part of taking responsibility for yourself. And in the work that I do, I live up to my name. I build, love, unite, and empower under Nurse Blue. So it was all worth it. lot.
it.
Yes.
It's all worth it, because otherwise why would we be here, and when people are in a low space and a low vibration where they're in the lowest of not wanting to be here, is that space that there is a reason for it all, and you are here. Another big one is that you chose to be here, you chose to
Yes.
come to this experience of being human in this form. So,
Yes.
and again, even at our lowest vibrational space, which is dark, and we may decide not to be here, what if the universe wanted to experience that as well? We can't condemn and condone what is your path, but for those who are interested in following a higher aspect of themselves, right? What the higher vibe frequencies are about, right? Low is moving slow, the
That's
frequencies move
right.
really, and the higher frequencies move faster. So that's what we mean by that. For anyone who may be like, what does that mean? That's what that means. So when you're in a low state, let's say when you're depressive, what happens? You're stagnant. You don't want to
That's right.
move. You don't want to do anything. But when you're happy and joyous, you're ready to do stuff. Let's go have a party. Let's go do. So it's that, even in that feeling in your body, understand that like it's just heavy or it's light and happy.
That's right. Yes, right. That's right. And what people have to understand is if you really want to live your best life, you have to put your frequency first.
Yes.
And
Yes.
soul health has to be, I think that's the missing link in our healthcare system is soul health. And
Absolutely.
that's why I love the work that I do, because
Right.
soul health is about you taking responsibility for your health, not putting it in the hands of doctors or nurses or anyone, but
Right.
truly understanding that all that you need in order for you to live the best years on planet earth, many times I mean it's just inside of you. You just have not really been taught, or we have not been taught how to master our own technology. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of like this phone. Everybody
Right.
has a
Right.
relationship with the phone, right? I probably, for what I use my phone for, I probably use it for like 15% of what it's capable of doing, right? But
Right.
we all know that this thing here is absolutely extraordinary, and so is this 32 trillion cells of magnificence, as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, look, this is the time now. If you never knew you had power, let Claudia and I be the first to tell you, honey, you
Yes.
are
Yes.
beautifully and wonderfully made. And all of these relationships that show up in your life as resistance, they're just mirrors oftentimes of things that you need to work on in yourself so that you can enjoy life. And I'm telling someone this because I spent a lot of time in darkness, and largely because I was looking outside of myself. I was blaming him and her and what happened 5 years and 10 years and 20 years ago. And it's not
Right.
that it didn't
Right.
happen, because it did.
Right.
However, if you can't do anything about it, you have to learn how to reframe it where
Mm-hmm.
you can leverage your power in it. The same way we learn how to leverage money or leverage real estate, you have to leverage your pain.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great perspective.
Yeah.
Seriously,
And
to
you make
hear
it
that.
pay you back for the
Mm-hmm.
tears and the years,
Yes.
Um, but I just truly believe that now, after doing this work for so long, Claudia, and being absolutely fascinated by it, we are in a time of miracles, and miracles happen when we learn how to release that which does not serve us and learn how to resurrect beyond what we've
Yes.
been taught is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how did you go to school for nursing, or is that something that came in later? You did.
Yes.
Okay.
I went to school for nursing and had full intentions on going into working in a hospital setting. And then I realized after graduating, I really wasn't taught anything about healing. And that's when I tell people, who might become frustrated with modern day medicine. We don't go to school to learn how to heal. We go to school to learn how to fix.
To
So,
do a
yeah,
patch job. Do a
yes,
patch job.
absolutely.
Um, and
There
send
you
you on
go.
your way, and
There
I'll
you
see you in a few months or weeks or
There you
yeah,
go. And the
yeah,
science where the study of science where, real healing takes place, that's quantum physics, So I was, after I graduated from nursing school, shortly thereafter, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune deficiency, psoriasis, which led
mm,
me to further continue my research, my development, my study and training on healing.
right,
Because here's what I did not want to do. Because while I have an appreciation for, however one chooses to navigate their chronic condition, I did not want
right,
to be on medication for the rest of my life.
yeah, yeah,
And I knew that doing so would result potentially in a problem, having problems with my vital organs, my kidneys, my in any one of them. I mean, it could be any of the side effects from that medication could have impacted me long term, my liver, So I started to explore what are some alternatives, because I know that this body is magnificent. And I knew that if you
yes,
could align it with the true healing force of this entire earth, that potentially I didn't have to, go down that route. So, needless to say, I'm a nerd. I've done a lot of research and had participated in becoming a wellness coach, which will lead me to how to balance my endocannabinoid system, my endocrine system, and mostly understand what soul health and soul dynamics were in terms of mind and heart coherence. And that
right,
is how I've been able to manage my condition and help my clients to do so.
yeah,
And it's just been healthier, overall. I think that it was one of the best decisions I could have ever have made. And what did that mean? It means I had to love my soul back to health. you
yes,
know
yes,
I had to make some decisions where the love of self was more important than the love of certain foods or the love of certain
yes,
habits. And it's just like anything else. When you invest in good things, they pay off. And I invested in good things to be able to serve, in order to have the life I've always wanted, long term.
yes.
So 98% of chronic diseases are reversible, Claudia.
No,
98% of all chronic
and that
diseases
and
are
that's why I wanted to
preventable.
bring you on because you are actually a practitioner teaching this, and it's so important to have voices for people like you. So people don't. I know this, but you know how some people are not open to. Okay, well, she's not. She didn't go to school for this. She doesn't know. Da, 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 and that's fine. I have someone now. Everyone who's listening, please listen to this woman to understand that your body can heal itself. I had a brother a few episodes ago, and he does vibrational healing, and he's also cured a lot of chronic diseases and things like
Yes,
that, even AIDS, and oh my God. Anyhow, so I'm more bringing into this space because yes, we can heal ourselves mentally, emotionally, right? But the soul needs that as well, even though it's in that high frequency, the unconditional loving frequency, but all this mud and dirt on top of it, it can't shine through
that's right.
because we've been programmed for all, for the way we should think, the way we should live, the way we should eat, the way we should do everything. It's not, it doesn't resonate with you, then you dropped it, you release it, start listening to yourself. So I wanted for you to dive deeper, which is what is your offering to your community. So I want the listener to understand more about this soul health and how it works, right?
Absolutely. Well, most people have heard about, we have a mind, a body, and a soul. But the soul is kind of like this invisible organ Because if
Right.
you get shot in your soul today and you go to the hospital and they ask you, what are you here for? And you're like, oh my God, I just got shot in the soul. They are going to look at you like you're nuts, probably call the authorities or have you Baker Act.
Right.
But listen, we all know what it is when, we lose someone tragically, or if you have a heartbreak, or,
Yes.
if you were bullied, that's the part of us that's injured when you are abused. And you're not going to be able to find the soul in the body, but it's a real organ. It's the supernatural part of us,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's made of your subconscious mind. It's made of your emotional space, which is why it's important for you to understand you're an emotional being. So the
Yes.
soul are made of the parts of creation, right? You create out of your soul, your subconscious mind, your emotional body, your will. And that's why you have to keep it healthy. Because when it's not healthy, it's going to manifest potentially as a disease state, right? So, right now, like 96 million people in our country alone are um, pre diabetic. Maybe 50%
Right.
of them may
Right.
know of it, right?
Right. Right. Very true.
Pre-diabetes is a preventable disease. Okay, so someone may ask, well, Nurse Blue, what does that have to do with soul health? It has everything to do with soul health. And the reason why I say that is because diabetes type 2, okay, which originates from pre-diabetes,
Yes.
those are lifestyle diseases, right? And
Mm-hmm.
largely due to what are you eating and what's eating at you. Well, both of those are
Yeah.
soul issues, right? And it's
Yes.
real. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm gonna tell you, a large part of the reason why we don't deal with soul issues because we don't understand that our soul is fed by our senses. Well, guess what? If we're feeling depressed, if we're feeling angry, if we're mad, if we're bitter, guess what? Potato chips taste really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sugar is
Yes.
really good. Listen, I don't want to feel this gnawing pain from this heartbreak or this betrayal. What's going to make me feel better?
Right.
Right? Maybe some Haagen Dazs, something. So a lot of this stuff is tied to habits around the tongue. And a lot of times what people don't realize, we wake up saying, what do I have a taste for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner? Oftentimes when you say, what do I have a taste for? It's what you're feeling. Now think about it. If you're not
Yes.
feeling good, you might want to treat yourself a little bit more to something that is good for the tongue, but the blood vessels are like, what? I'm not supposed to have this, So soul health is you becoming authority over this here. And the reason
Yes.
why this was so important to me is because what people don't understand, our biggest problem in the world, and perhaps probably the most injurious thing to humanity, is stress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Stress leads to, it's the number one killer. Why? Because it leads to chronic disease.
Yes.
But stress is nothing more than a problem that has not been solved. Really.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right.
And if we learn how to solve our problems more effectively, like process them, they don't have to
Right.
get to a point where they sit within our souls, right? And we um, start creating adverse reactions where it elevates our emotions, where it
Right.
sends us into fight or flight, or
Right.
or we continue to live our lives where stress is leading us down a path of destruction where we're eating more,
Right. Right.
and a lot of times what people don't understand is that, over the past 3 years, Claudia, our country, our world, you know, we're still navigating a lot of panic, fear, stress from from everywhere, right? And
Everywhere.
when we're
Yes.
feeling that stress, oftentimes that cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
which is that stress hormone, is
Yeah.
doing a terrible job on this body. So that's why soul health is important, because that's where the solution is. The solution is not taking more medication
No.
or
Absolutely.
developing or going shopping or developing a habit around it to manage it or all of that, because all of that leads down a path of living a life that, quite frankly, is not going to serve you in the long run. What
Hmm.
we have to realize is that whatever is showing up in our reality, that it is being created to serve us, quite frankly. And the more harmonious we become on the inside, the more harmonious we're going to create a world on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. How does addiction play into this?
Because oftentimes when we,
And like addiction outside of not food, but drugs,
oh,
sex.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, addictions usually happen because it takes us out of the reality that we're currently uncomfortable in,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So, whether it's, we have this beautiful system within his body called the endocrine system, and that really is the system that controls this, like the biochemical system of our body, that and the endocannabinoid system. And if what addiction does is it manipulates the hormones. So it can make us feel a little bit more elevated to help us deal with it, or it can help us feel a little bit more depressed or more relaxed. And that is just one of those coping mechanisms that people go to when they are experiencing
Yeah.
soul toxins, because it
Yeah.
alters your current reality, right?
It
But if
does.
people became addicted to the states of joy or
Mm-hmm.
the states of gratitude, I mean,
Yes.
addictions can be something that we can actually reframe in a very positive way. But
Right.
our culture has built a lot of habits around, if you want to have fun, then go out to and eat, right, all the time. Or if you want to have fun, go and have cocktails. Or,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing around this, when you're out of balance in your soul, you're going to lean more heavily toward things that become a distraction to the current reality that you're in, or just
Yes.
totally remove you away, or just give you a crutch, and unfortunately that those sorts of things ran in my family. So I
Right.
was always around substance abusers,
Mm.
and unfortunately that's generational. That, I mean,
Yes.
people transfer that. Those are called generational curses. So a lot of
Yes.
my work was having to make sure that that wasn't passed down to my family,
Right.
to me or my daughter.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the part of the responsibility of coming into this self-awareness, that you become the ancestor. Even though you're living, you're gonna be the ancestor for your
Yes.
grandchild, your great 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 anything. And in order for anybody in your lineage to have a better future, when you're coming to that self-awareness, if you're thinking, oh my god, I can't believe that I've been living this way, my family's living so unhealthy, or whatever it is that you're seeing that no longer works in the family dynamic, it
Yes.
is your responsibility is not only to heal yourself but the lineage, so these patterns and loops are no longer happening, right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. Even something as subtle as a workaholic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are people who believe that working extensively is a badge of honor, right? And that was my
Right.
dad. Well, and I did too. And I've had problems with, managing my work, because I realized that long term that deeply impacted my father's health.
Right.
Last year, my dad passed due to Alzheimer's, dementia, and also prostate cancer. And
Congratulations.
what we're finding in the scientific and research community is that, like I mentioned before, 98% of these chronic diseases are reversible. What kind of habits did my father have? My father was a midnight disc jockey. He did not sleep at night.
Mm. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, his habit wasn't, my father didn't have any, substance abuse habits. He didn't even know what the taste of alcohol was. He didn't smoke. However, my father loved Southern soul food cooking, and my mother was
Right.
a wonderful cook, And growing up impoverished, when people didn't have money,
Right.
everything was validated by how good the meal was at the dinner table, right?
Right.
And if you
Right.
don't have money, well, I'll just make up for it, but I'll put a little bit more sugar or a little bit more butter
Right.
or a little, you know what I mean? Those,
Or
because
more
I love
salt.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I love you so much and I want to make it taste so good. Okay, well, do that for 50, 60, 70 years, 80 years, okay? Decreases
Exactly.
the flow in the blood vessels. And in my father's case, my father loved eating meat. My father loved sugar. He loved, he worked out on a regular basis. But because his habits over time was
Mm.
destructive to the body and he did not know it, it resulted in a chronic disease that now we're learning could have been prevented.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
know?
Right. Yeah.
So so
You
I
know.
really
No. No.
I
Sorry. Go ahead.
no. What I was going to say is, I really think it's important that people realize that when you graduate from school, there's so much more learning to do,
Yes.
considering you didn't get this information. And soul health is really you caring enough about this life that you're living, and you care taking responsibility to care about the next generation that you're going to be impacting them, and pass
Yes.
on the information that we didn't get. Go get it.
100%. You know, as I'm listening to you, I realized something that should, which, in a healing world, um, you know how when you turn 18 you need to go to college and you're picking your college and all this nonsense. There should be a curriculum before you even start adulting of healing yourself from 0 to 18, so now you can make better
Yes.
decisions for you to be this adult. That just came to me. I
Yes.
was like, right? That should be a thing. That should be,
Yes,
and then you know
absolutely.
yourself, you know your mind, body, and soul, and now you're like, oh, and then because you're listening, right? So then the mission, the call will come in and be like, hey, this is what you're here for, and then you can make that decision. Do you go to school? You study whatever it is that you're being called to share within you, right? That
Yes.
that's
I,
progressive
Claudia,
healing.
I love that idea. And you think about how much we would clean up our society if that would happen.
I know we would. I mean, that is where we're heading. You know, the children that are coming in now, they're not gonna have it anymore, and they're just gonna say, "Listen, this is not working. This
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to
They're
stop." And
challenging
we
us,
need.
honey.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, you and I, we're ready, but for the most part, you know, for the people who are not in this space, they're looking at their child as problematic or what's wrong with them, or they're the black sheep, you know, as we were at some point, and you're just coming into yourself, and it's just different from your family, and it needs to be, because those patterns aren't working, so you need to be the disruptor of the
Yes.
family of what this is, and embrace that, you know. And sadly we do take what our family says to heart, but sometimes we have to be able to disconnect from what we intuitively know and feel about ourselves versus what everyone around us is saying.
Oh, yes.
um, you know, and your father is coming from that culture of workaholics. All the boomers were
Yes.
workaholics, right? They came, a lot of immigrants also came, just work, work, work. I'm here to support my family, make sure they have food, and blue collar, all of that era, right? And that's
That's
so
right.
unhealthy. And then there was no education on food healing, mental healing, all of this stuff. So, you know, sometimes when these things happen, like losing our parents or us ourselves having certain diseases, are invitations for us to change the space
That's right.
and change, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that all things are happening the way they should happen. We all come to this
Yes.
planet to visit. So, another thing that has happened, that I believe has been a really great gift, is my relationship with death has changed during this
Mm-hmm.
process.
Yes.
I've gained an appreciation of just knowing that we all came here to visit. So
Yes.
get the most out of the ride. Get the most out of the ride. And
Yes.
it's just easier when you learn how to live it with the intention of getting the most out of this frequency from a higher level.
Right.
Look, I was down long enough to know how
Mm.
how
Right.
dark, how dense,
Right.
how destructive, um, and quite frankly, how much time you can waste just being
Mm.
trapped in lower
Yes.
vibrational frequencies.
Yes. Yes.
And
I have resonate. Yes.
yeah, and on this planet right here, for whatever reason, there is this tendency to lean into fear first. It's
Right.
like we come here in a space of love, and then the default is fear. you
Right.
know?
Right.
And we have to realize that there's a strategy and a methodology to every game, right? And
Right.
here on this planet, if you really want to get the most out of this game, soul health is the solution,
Yes.
and put your frequency first. I teach
Yes.
people how to put your frequency first. And so, if for anyone who, Claudia, who's listening to the sound of my voice and they really want to
Yes.
know more about what this whole soul health
Yes.
is, I created a
Yes.
community for people who were like me, who were waking up. I kind of felt like, you know, I felt like an alien growing up in my family.
Yeah.
like,
100%. Yes.
yes,
Well, why am I weird? Why am I
right.
different? Why?
And they kind of looked at me like I was one. So they're like, "Where did this child comes from? She's just on her own kind of axis here." But for those
Yes.
people who are finding themselves feeling like something's going on and you're really just trying to figure out how to connect with a tribe where
Mm.
it's non-judgmental, but you want to awaken into your superpowers, I created the Soul Health and Wellness Club because
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, because at the heart of it, it really is a deep detoxification process.
It is. It is. It
And you
is.
need to be loved through it, because that's what it is.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
returning back
Yes.
to the love you were created in. And most people,
Yes.
unfortunately, many people will go through this life not ever knowing what true unconditional love is.
I
And
know.
as a nurse, I feel like that is the tool that I can give you. Like
Yes.
I can help one not only first and foremost experience it, tap into it, but then be
Right.
courageous enough to give it to others. And as you do
Yes.
that, you're like becoming an alchemist. You're taking, isn't that
Oh
what?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're taking
Yeah.
pain and you're transmuting it and transforming it into something beautiful. You're returning it back to love, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that
I
truly is
love
what
that.
this, yeah, and that's truly is what the superpower is all about. So it's a home for the soul. It's called the Soul Health and Wellness Club. And for people who want to come and try it out, because I wanted to make it a space where we can date before you get married. So I give you
Right.
7-day free trial to just come and hang out, see what it's about. They can go to soulhealthcommunity.com. And I typically attract people who are looking for an alternative to maybe the traditional regimen that they've been given if they have a chronic disease. So
Right.
if they have a chronic, like I had autoimmune deficiency psoriasis, many of my clients have signs and symptoms of heart disease,
Mm.
signs and symptoms of diabetes, obesity. They're struggling with inflammation, and they're just looking for an alternative to taking medication, or they want to do it naturally. Come and try out
Yes.
Soul Health. Come and check us
Yes,
out.
definitely, absolutely. Because it's important. And it was funny as you're saying this. I'm like, and for the listener, she's gonna nurse you back to health, literally, like literally gonna nurse you back to health.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, it's so needed.
absolutely.
And then what you're gonna come out of it is you're gonna love yourself so deeply that you won't even think twice to disrespect yourself in any
Yes,
capacity.
Claudia, it's my way of believing that we can create heaven on earth because I refuse to live
Yes,
in hell.
absolutely. Agreed. Agreed. That's why we have the sovereignty to create our own bubble and that heaven, and we want to expand that bubble because we've experienced, we have that here. We worked really hard for our reality to master our own spiritual technology, our love, everything that's been given, our sovereign rights, and with our, being born with this unconditional love, and knowing like,
Yes,
oh, it is true, it is possible. Let's expand this bubble with others so that way they know not to, that fear is the only way to live. No, that's the lie, right?
that's
And
right.
living in the space and having that. And that's what these conversations are about, right? Expanding these heavenly bubbles with each other.
Yes, absolutely. We're touching, we're all connected anyway. And I think that's
Yeah,
what people have to understand. Like, it's all connected.
all
It's
of it.
it's all
Yep,
connected. And on a
all of it.
soul, and the soul is where we all connect, you know?
Right, right.
So I introduce people to, ways that we can elevate our life through the foods we eat. We can elevate our life through the things we create, what we say out of our mouth, because this is your
Mm-hmm.
creation tool. And life
Yes,
and death is in the power of the tongue, no matter whether
yes,
you're eating or what you're saying,
right.
what we're believing, and also something I absolutely love, what we're listening to, because I love music.
Yes,
And I use that as a vibrational tool to help bring healing to the body.
yes,
So, dancing, people have to be willing to adopt some of the other modalities that support healing that are not traditional, but historically have been
mm-hmm.
used to bring balance to this organism. And music is one of the most beautiful art forms. So, really, I'm a nurse, but I'm truly a musicologist and a wellness coach. And I bring it all together because we must understand that if we're multidimensional, in order to have true healing take place, you have to explore the various dimensions of
You
who you
do.
are.
Yes, yes. The dimensionality of yourself and the dimensionality of where you live in this
Oh,
beautiful
yes.
world. So
Yes.
and when you have that understanding of the dimensionality within yourself, you'll be able to understand the external dimensionality of where you live. And
That's
then
right.
it won't be so scary because,
That's
like you were saying, we're all connected. So everything outside of you is you. It's an extension of you, your home, your car, your children, your partner, your friends. If you hate anybody, there's an aspect of you that you hate.
that's
And
right.
I actually have never done a podcast before by myself, but I felt inclined to talk about the invitation where it's always there to just look at it differently and just
That's
say, oh,
right.
hey, I'm being triggered because there's this inside of me, or I'm being, instead of being mad or upset or projecting your emotional baggage onto someone, which isn't okay, it's just bringing it back and giving yourself space and finding help. If it's not Latrice, finding a therapist, finding someone who can help you make sense of what's happening within you so you don't feel like you're drowning further, right? You want to
Yes.
come out ahead. You want to get out of it and just start to remove the piles of mud and muck that keep your light from shining.
That's right, Claudia. And what's most important is that people understand is that whatever you are feeling, you don't have to run from them,
Right.
and you
Right.
don't have to find a way to stop feeling. I've been noticing that you can't help but see this all throughout. There's a generation of people who are expressing themselves with tattoos all over their bodies.
Right.
And years ago, you would see people with tattoos, but now it's like it is more prevalent than ever before. And it's not just like one or two. I mean, people are
Right.
truly going there. And I
Right.
always ask the questions like, what would, um, what would lead someone to want to express themselves, their art all over their bodies? And I've asked questions, and what I'm finding is that a lot of people are channeling their pain through
Yeah.
tattoos. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
so pain is going to come out. It's coming
Yes.
out. It can
It's
go, it
coming
can
out.
come out to your children, which probably is going to be very destructive, and they'll be sitting on a couch or talking to someone like Nurse Blue about what happened in their upbringing.
Right.
Um, it can come out in a habit. It can come out however it is. The bottom line is if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you. However, don't run away from it because we all have it. Just
Right.
come and learn the technology that is needed to
Right.
help you process your soul toxins from a healthier perspective so you can
Yes.
leverage them so that they can help you become your best self and not sabotage you from becoming your best self.
Absolutely. And that also gives you ownership,
Yes.
courageousness to step up for yourself. Otherwise, the universe will have to interject, and you won't like that. And it's called the tower moment,
Yes.
where it just falls on you, and then now you have to do something about it. But now it's worse because the universe had to interject because it's
Yeah.
gotten to a space that you're not doing anything, and you don't want to wait for that moment. This is the invitation with Latrice to come in and start thinking and questioning and be like, okay, where can I begin? And it's just, even that question, you've already started and you're on your path, you're on your way, right? So I want to
Yes.
thank you so much, Goddess, for coming on today. This was just remarkable wisdom and gems just oozing out of you. And I hope that the listeners can take a lot from it. And definitely going to put all your links on to my website and as well as YouTube when I put this out. And so
Okay.
anyone who's listening can reach out to Nurse Blue and ask her questions. I love your website by the way too, and your intake. I love your intake form. It's
Oh,
remarkable.
thank you.
Love it. It wasn't for me because we were trying to communicate, but I went through it. I was like, this is remarkable. I loved it. So thank you so much for coming on. And before I let you go, I wanted to ask if there's the last gem that you want to share that the listener may want to take with them today.
What I want for everyone well, first of all, Claudia, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. And what I want for everyone to know is that the reason why you're here is so that you can understand how powerful, how remarkable, and how beautifully made you are. And it's time for you to learn what that superpower is all about. And if you're feeling that internal resistance, don't run away from it. That's your invitation to know who you are as a soul. So come to the Soul Health and Wellness Club and let's explore how beautifully made you are so you can become the best version of yourself in this lifetime.
In this lifetime, because you don't want to keep coming back.
Yes, do
You
it
don't want to
now.
keep do it now, and also your kids will thank you. So
Yes.
uh, I highly recommend it. Definitely check out Latrice's website and all of it. Just check out what she's got going on. Just reach out, even if it's a question. If you're not ready to jump in, just don't be afraid to just reach out. Thank you all for listening today, and as always, remember that the breath is the secret, and always lead with love. I love you all so much, and thank you for tuning in. And I so grateful, really. Like you, for everyone who listened, can hear like the the flow of light that just comes out of this woman. I really wanted to ask questions, but I was so present and enjoying her that there was nothing. It was just everything that we needed to hear had came out. So
Thank you,
thank
Claudia.
you.
Thanks again for having me.
Of course, you're welcome.